Hey everybody, hope we're doing well today. Today's lesson is going to teach you how to read the plate boundary chart. And in order to do that, we're going to do a lab. I'm also going to introduce a cool program called Nearpod. Maybe some of your teachers have already started using it. Nearpod is basically a Flipgrid. I think it might be the same owners. It's a Flipgrid for basically Google Documents or Google Slideshows or any document or slideshow. It's a very user-friendly program. You don't have to join it. You're going to get a code. Each class will get an individual code for this assignment. Now you're going to have this lab right here attached onto the Google Documents that is posted today. So make sure you watch this video first. Hopefully you're doing that now. And then you could print this out if you like. But since a lot of you might not have the printers or the paper, or I don't want you running out to get it in this coronavirus crisis we're going through, I decided to upload the portions of the lab that you're going to have to draw or color on this site called Nearpod. All right, so I'm going to show you that now. So if you go to Nearpod, you're going to be given a code. All right, and every class is going to get a different code. And once you type in the code, please put your name. All right, if I don't know who it is, I'm not going to give you credit. All right, so put your first name and last name so I know who is doing this lab. You join the session, and here is the tectonic plates boundary map that we're going to be studying and using. So if you go back to the other document that's in Google Docs, this one, this is where the directions are. So you should have both of these out at the same time. So in these directions, it say color the plate boundaries as follows: convergent blue, divergent red, transform green. Okay. Now, down here, okay, sorry, in this area down here, you have pen, highlighters, markers, text box, erasers. You have options to use. I want you to use the highlighter, which is this one. So we said convergent blue. So I'm going to take blue, make it nice and big. And I'm going to go to here. And right here, it says convergent. Convergent means to come together. So do you see how this one has, how this one has the arrows coming together? Let me magnify that. Okay. That means it's a convergent boundary. And it tells you that one plate is subducting and one plate is overriding. So the plate that's subducting is the plate that doesn't have those rectangular boxes. Those rectangular boxes are supposed to represent mountain ranges, specifically usually volcanic mountain ranges. And the subducting plate will have a trench. Okay. So what you're going to do is trace over anything on that map with that symbol in blue. I'll just do a little bit of it. Okay. So this one right here, I'm going to trace it over in blue. Okay. I'll continue. Anywhere I see the boxes, and I'll stop. Okay. You're going to do all of them. I'm only just doing a little bit for you to get you started. So anywhere there's the rectangular boxes, anywhere on that map, you're going to trace it in blue. Now, if you notice right here, you have one side of the rectangular boxes, say it says the Peru Chile Trench. So that's the side that's subducting. So we would say the Nazca Plate, this plate called the Nazca Plate, is subducting under the South American Plate. All right. Now, here, you would get the Cocos Plate. See that little dot? That's the Cocos Plate. Is subducting under the Caribbean Plate in the southern portion, and it's subducting under the North American Plate in the northern portion of the Cocos Plate. So back to the Nazca Plate and the South American Plate. The Nazca Plate is subducting. You know that because of this key. And then the side with the boxes would be your mountains. Okay, you don't have to know specifically every mountain range. All right, if you like trivia, the mountain range that would be in this region is the Andes. Okay, and they happen to be volcanic. All right. All right. The next key is red. So I'm going to highlight, let me get rid of my magnifying. I'm going to highlight red, and that is going to be for a divergent boundary. And you should color code your key just like I'm doing here. Okay? So anywhere the arrows are moving apart, that means to diverge, all right? Like divide something, you split it, all right? If you divide, you're splitting into fractions, all right? So if the plates are diverging, they are being split. And that's where you would get your mid-ocean ridges. And it actually tells you that right here. Let me get the magnifying again. Divergent plate boundary, usually broken up by transform faults. Don't really worry about that. But then it says along mid-ocean ridges. So I'm going to trace every place I see the arrows moving apart, or if I see these parallel lines over in red. Okay? And you see it says, if you look right here, Mid-Atlantic Ridge. See if I go to this one, see the arrows are moving apart. South is Southeast Indian Ridge. So wherever the arrows are moving apart, we call that a divergent boundary, and you're going to get a ridge. All right. And the last color or boundary is the transform, and we're going to color that in green. So I'm going to go to green. I'm going to color code my key here. And anytime I have the lines going in opposite directions, but sideways, so not away from each other, but sideways relative to one another. And if there's a single line, see how there's a thin single line? So like right here in the left kind of corner, see that single line? I'm going to draw a little green line. I'm going to trace it. Okay? And these are the hard ones to find. The most famous one is right here. I'll magnify it. In California, it's called the San Andreas Fault. So I'm going to trace that one for you as well. Okay? Now they're all over the map. They're hard to find. Like they're right here as well, and here. So take the time and look for them. All right? And you'll trace all those in green. Okay. While I have this out, I'll go over more of the directions. Another portion of the directions, I guess it's part 2 of this lab in a way. I'll go to it. Okay, well, I guess it's part 3. I'm skipping down. Is to draw the prime meridian international dateline. Prime meridian international dateline, 2 vertical lines. Draw a line for the equator. And then shade in yellow any of these things called hotspots. Okay, so let me go back to my Nearpod. map. So if you look here, right here, it says Manto hotspot. So what I want to do is find them on the map and shade them in yellow. But the directions say before you do that to draw two lines, two vertical lines, one for the 180. That's your international date line. So that's my 180. One for the prime meridian. That's my 0 line. So those are my two vertical lines. And then my equator is my 0 line of latitude. Okay. So this should be some review because we did this in the beginning of the year. But this is a much harder map because this is focused on the Pacific Ocean. So between this line and this line is actually the Western Hemisphere. Okay? And then this is all east. And this little bit here is also in the east. Okay? And the reason you're going to have to do that is I want you to give me the latitude and longitude of these little hot spots. So now you're going to go back to all these little hot spots. And like here's the Canary hotspot, shaded in yellow. Here's Iceland, shaded in yellow. Here's Hawaii, that's the most famous one, and Yellowstone. And there's more. So you have to really take the time to look for them and give the latitude and longitude of all the ones on the list. Okay? Now, since I had that map up, I kind of skipped around. I'm going to go back to the first page to direction of step 2. Step 2 says fill in the chart below with the type of boundary found between plate 1 and plate 2. So I'm going to look in this chart. It also says there can be more than one kind of boundary between the plates. So plate 1 is South American plate. Plate 2 is the African plate. So I'm going to go to my map. I'm going to find the South American plate. I'm going to find the African plate. And I'm going to look at the boundary between them. And it says Mid-Atlantic Ridge. But if I see here the arrows are moving apart, that means it's a divergent boundary. So I'm going to go back to the lab. And I'm going to write in divergent boundary. Okay, I'll do one more with you. So what's the boundary between the North American plate and the African plate? Actually, let me do one that's different because that's actually the same answer. If you're paying attention, you get it right. Let's do the Pacific and North American plate because that one's a little harder. So here's the Pacific plate. Here's the North American plate. See this San Andreas Fault? What kind of boundary is that? Well, I don't know. Let me look at the key. The arrows are sliding past, so it's transformed. But then there's another boundary here. See, this is still the Pacific plate. That's still the North American plate. You get this Aleutian Trench. That's the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. That big long tail of Alaska. So those are boxes. I go to the boxes, and that's a convergent boundary. Okay? So there's two boundaries here, transform and convergent. So I'm going to say transform and, wrong line. I apologize. We're filling this in Pacific, North American. Transform And you do this better than me. Transform and converge. All right? All right. You're going to do that as well. And then you're going to go to the last page in this lab. Or second to last page. Right here. Okay? It says color your plate boundary map. So the first part we colored in the boundaries. Now you're actually going to color the plates. Okay? And then give the names. So it says plate 1 is yellow. So I'm going to go back to my Nearpod. See this blue thing here? I'm going the blue arrow to the right. I'm going to click on it. Okay? And I'm going to color in number 1 yellow. You should use the highlighter. I feel like it works a little better. And I'm going to go to a bolder drawing. And I'm just going to color in the whole thing. This is plate number 1. I'm going to color in the whole thing yellow. Okay? And that is the Pacific plate. How do I know that? Because I'm going to match it up with this diagram. All right? So 1 is my Pacific plate. So I'm going to go to the third slide on the Nearpod. I'm going to go to this thing that says text box. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to write Pacific plate. And then I'm going to drag it so it's number 1. Okay? Then I have to click out of it. I'll click my eraser to get out of it. And I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to color in number 2. I'll go to the key here on the side. On the side here, it says, it says brown. So I'm going to take my highlighter. I'm going to find the brown. That's black. That looks pretty brown. Maybe a little orange. Okay, they may not have a good brown, but I'll use what's best. All right. And so number 2, I'm going to shade this whole thing in brown. Okay. Every little bit of that plate. So this whole map should be colored in. So this first map, you colored in the boundaries. Excuse me. And the second map, you colored in the plates. And that number 2, that's blue. That number 2 is the North American plate. So I'm going to go to my text box. I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to type North American plate. And then I'm going to slide it over so it's in the right spot. I'm going to click out of there. All right? And then you're going to answer the questions. Now, in order to submit this properly, let me move myself. You're going to hit submit. Make sure you do that at the end or it won't submit. You're going to hit submit. Okay. And then see this little icon here, this little arrow pointing down. That will allow you to exit. And then you click exit. Are you sure you want to leave this session, this lesson? Yes. And just like a Flipgrid, I will get notification that you did it. All right. But you should still do all these questions 1 through 8 on here and turn it in. Okay. If you prefer, if you have a printer at home that works well and you like a hard copy, then by all means, you're free to print it out, color it in. I know myself as a student, I would have preferred it that way. Okay, so print it out and then take pictures of it and submit it to me that way. Or you could do this option with the Nearpod. All right, I'm trying it out. I hope it works. All right. Best of luck. Email me if you have any questions. Have a good day.